First up, will cops get justice for the mustard on their shirts? Has our space travel been limited by scientists unwilling to explore turd shapes? That's the question being asked by average Americans as they seek to get off this planet and escape the alien ship coming to Earth, which many assume is the probe before the mothership. While other experts are saying it's a very old pile of garbage that will easily be defeated by our piles of garbage we strategically deployed to orbit the Earth. Next, why your plane is definitely in the 10% of planes not flying, which will increase pricing on all other flights and force you into coach, with airlines considering double coach and shoving your carry-on luggage up your ass to accommodate other passengers. As all the major airlines figure out how to deal with the FAA shutdown, some budget carriers are considering allowing passengers as first come, first serve, fight to the death for seats. Next, how concerned do you need to be with the limited attack that may never happen and after all will be limited? Next, Jenna Bush goes on to keep illusions that these are people with feelings and they didn't just come from a ceremony of eating Cheney's corpse, trying to consume his aura of having even less feelings than they do. Next, a breakdown of Trump's plan for 50-year mortgages to keep kids indebted forever. And lastly, why George Santos is leaving New York, saying Mamdani will steal his stolen riches, and that New York City is no longer a safe place for the gays.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. I'm running and gunning here. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. I see 45 people are here live. This has been a cock tease of a show. I've had this thing in the bag for 3 days, kept wanting to do it. Just now, I finally found my window, and then the computer starts doing a restart and an update. Last night I was about to do it. People went out for dinner. I had my setup here, and then the kids in the unit next to me started getting into their pool. And I was like, I can't be shouting this stuff while those people are in those pools. Anyway, it's going to be a quick podcast. I want to rush over and get to Skankfest because they got the Legend Show, which includes Doug Stanhope, my all-time favorite of all time. And it's a crazy, insane lineup on that show. So going to try and get this done and dart on over there. But, you know, we do have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in the news. This was a wild week, particularly for conspiracy news stories. And hopefully I'll track down Sam at some point over Sam Tripoli, that is, over the festival so we can get into it. And also, everybody, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that came out for porches over this year of porching. It was a wonderful time. This last run of shows, I felt like so sharp and things were grooving. And I think next year we're going to be doing more day drinkers because the Sunday day drinkers, which is a stand-up invention, they're great. Just get hammered early, do the show. People have lives. They got things they want to get to, and then I can get on a flight home. Speaking of which, the last headlining gig I've got for the year is going to be in Steamboat, Colorado, and then at Inga's Tavern in so you can go to porchtour.com. That's the last of those dates. I'm doing New Year's with Sam Tripoli. And mostly going to be home trying to edit stuff and get a lot of stand-up clips up, / 2 mockumentaries from this past year, and putting out maybe 20 of the 45 minutes I've been touring with thus far. So if you guys don't currently follow it, make sure to follow the Robbie the Fire channel. That's where all that stuff's going to be coming out from. And then if I can do it, I will be dumping some full unedited port shows hopefully on my website. I got to coordinate with my website guy on that. We'll be back with details. But anyways, let's get into some nonsense. Let's cover some news. And then I want to go over to Skankfest and have a jolly old time because it's already, I mean, this thing's so much bigger than when I first saw it at the Creek in the Cave. It's really quite inspiring, and I'm excited to get over there. All right, let's start with this because I do have some condemnations. There's a lot of news to cover, a lot of juicy stories, but I do have some condemnations that I have to address. And the first is I stayed by friends who have an Airbnb for the festival. It's much nicer than the hotel room that I was given. I've been making sweet loves to the jets in that hot tub. I'm really enjoying being a house guest by wealthier people. It's a nice time. Usually I got to spend the money on everything. I'm bringing the openers on the road, and every once in a while, when you can be the house guest and crashing by wealthier people, oh man, am I taking advantage of it all, including the last 2 days I was able to make eggs in the morning, which mean I didn't have to go through my usual chaotic ritual of giving up on delivery, roaming the town, and just trying to find eggs. We've already gotten into the egg dilemma facing this country, and at one point I will run for office. I will do we're just going to fix it. Put Epstein, someone emailed me this, that the Libertarian Party should just run with, we're going after the Epstein criminals, which would not be a bad platform. I just responded, good idea. Usually most of the emails are bad ideas, but that one I was like, that's a pretty good idea. Anyways, they got an oven here, and I don't know if any of you rich people out there have an oven like this, but firstly, it was a gas stove, and the gas stove was not lighting very well, and so off the bat, you had to deal with how much gas am I leaking into this place? Am I going to explode everyone I've ever met? Is this whole thing going to go up in smoke? But then when you were done using the oven, where it's labeled off is not actually where the knob goes to be off, and that is an OCD hell I can't even describe. Can you not just put the off label next to where the oven is actually off? So that I don't have to continue. I'd be like, I heard the click, I checked it, I'm not hearing any gas, but the off thing's over here, and then they're misaligned amongst each other. I'm like, do the Italians who make ovens have no respect for symmetry, or the off label being where an oven is off? I can't be the only, if I was in the oven store picking out ovens, I would give the sales guy a hard time of how has nobody addressed the fact that you want to hear the click and see that it's symmetrical with the word off, so that you can go to OCD heaven. And if these two things are unaligned, I will have never actually completed the task of turning off the oven. And anybody with some OCD, I think, could appreciate how irritating that is to not be able to complete that cycle. All right. Just a couple other condemnations. Maybe we'll save some of these other ones for the next at-home show. But, one more gripe. If you guys are fancy people and you're living in fancy homes and you've got these fancy shower heads that come down from the top like rainfall, there's some things that rich people do wrong. And if you've got one of those and you don't have the additional shower head so that you can properly blast your balls and asshole, how are you cleaning yourself? Who wants to take a shower with just sprinkling water coming? I do not get that whatsoever. You need one good focus stream that you can maneuver, really get in your pits, really get in your butthole, really get under your balls. If it's just coming down, you gotta be doing yoga in the shower if you're cleaning the orifices. And I like to be a clean individual. I don't like trucking scents around. I'm doing my exercises. I'm just oozing out booze and coffee and cigarettes and nicotine, and you just want to make sure that you're clean if you're going to, let everyone else at Skankfest smell. That has always been my mentality of the festival, is just because other people might not be showered is no excuse for you not being showered. And I do not I understand if you've got enough money and water pressure for multiple shower heads that you want a base layer of water that's just coming down from on top of you. But to just have the base layer coming down without other additional streams that are your main streams for showering, I'm adding that to the condemnation list. And then one more is, luckily, they got this airline system figured out. It's amazing that basically they just push it to see how much of a nuisance can government not operating be to the American people, that at some point they fold and realize we can't piss people off this much. And so some people were getting their food stamps. Other people were riding in airports, continuously being told that your airline was not going to fly. And only that's partially the government's fault. They only had to say you had to cut back 10%. But then the second the airlines can just sit around and cancel any flight that's not within a certain profit margin and just go, oh, yeah, it's because there's no air traffic control. They will do that all day. You can't give the airlines any excuse to not. They're already giving bad service and fucking with you to the max. If you give them any excuse for more, you're finished. All right, let's take a couple of comments, and then we will get into the show. R&W saying that RYM is the greatest podcast. Thank you. Chef Lewis saying, fuck yeah, Rob. Great show at the Red Door. That was a very fun show. Thank you, sir. Core, I shook your hand at Skankfest 2 years ago. I haven't washed it since. You know, that's a respectful move. I once was at a basketball thing as a kid, and I got to high-five Patrick Ewing, and I think I lasted a day, but I definitely had that thought of, now I can never shake this, I can never wash this hand again. All right, one last thing. Someone's saying I'm looking hot today, which is not true. This is some bad mismatched lighting, but I'll take it. Where's the guy who wants to always dock with me with the large foreskin? Where's that guy? All right, let's just get into it. Let's cover some of the crazy conspiracy stuff that's going on, and then I'm going to get over to Skankfest. Producer man, I take him on the road now. Can you get my graphics up on the screen? All the hard work I've done today, can you show it to the people? You know, I can't afford to bring you on the road if you're not even going to maneuver these things. I'm really overextending my invite at this Airbnb I'm crashing at to have my producer man with me. There you go. You know, I'll figure it out at some point. He's, he partied hard last night at Skankfest. He's a little hungover, and it is different gear out here, so, you know, you got to make do with what you have. All right, so let's start with this. I don't know much about gait analysis. I remember years ago hearing that people's gait is as nearly as accurate as fingerprints. And I remember reading some weird article, I don't know, maybe it's Popular Science, Popular Mechanics, Wired Magazine. I read a lot of random news stories, and they were talking about gait detection on phones that might even be better than passwords because everyone's gait is so specific to them. So you had Blaze ran a report that basically they think they identified the January 6th pipe bomber, which obviously was an obscure story. You guys can go watch Thomas Massey giving the FBI a hard time, going, what's the deal here? I mean, how much were you guys trying to sell us on this idea of domestic terrorists on the loose, that you send somebody with this pipe bomb and you got footage missing and security missing and blah, 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 and no one got arrested? Anyways, they think that they analyzed this and they pegged it to a guy who works over at the CIA, and apparently he's security at the CIA headquarters. Can't tell you more about it, but in terms of loony stories making the rounds right now, it is nice to see the internet and Thomas Massey and other people putting the pressure on the government of, we do not want these obscure storylines going unanswered forever. We're going to get into all the hot Epstein details that arrived this week, and I don't know what will come of this news story. I don't know if the FBI will continue to be able to brush it under the rug and go, nobody was trying to pretend like we needed more censorship of the internet and locking up Americans under a label of domestic terrorism. But anytime you got a weird story out there where someone thinks that they completely muckracked what the government was hiding from us, you know, we're going to highlight it on the show, and that's a good time. All right, let's get into some of the other crazy stories that came out this past week. And maybe you guys missed some of these, but all of these are, you know, just kind of frightening narratives of the way that governments operate and what they will do to try and infringe on our freedom and push their agenda of higher profits for themselves out there. But there was a storyline that apparently out in Ukraine, England was trying to steal one of the better fighter pilots from Russia that has the better missiles on it. And at first you would think, oh man, this is some cool spy shit. You guys are gonna, well, actually no, their new missile goes underwater so that if Donald Trump actually pulls off Space Force, then they'll be nuking us through the oceans. Donald Trump still, if you're going for spending more money than anybody ever, even if the Russians convert all of their missiles to being undetectable sea missiles that will explode and tidal wave our entire country, if you want to spend more money than anybody, even if a Space Force missile defense system is thereby made totally useless because Russia converted to sea missiles, you got to go for it because you're trying to spend more than anybody ever. So, there's going to be some unpractical investments over the way. Spend more money than any other president. Anyways, the storyline here is actually not that they were trying to steal technology, but that perhaps they were trying to steal a Russian plane so that they could go bomb something in Europe and then go, shit, I guess it's World War III and we got to go fight these guys. Now, as to whether there'll be more details on this other goofy conspiracy, I don't know. I'm just telling you, you can go look up this story. Maybe I've been on the road too much. I'm not even recapping it properly. Read it 4 days ago when I wanted to podcast. You can go find it. Russia claims it thwarted British and Ukrainian plot to steal hypersonic missile-equipped jet. Which sounds like, I said, spy thriller, stealing the good Russian technology. But according to this article, nope, they were trying to go for a false flag attack. And who do you want to trust on this one? You want to trust the Russians who say they thwarted the attack? Maybe that's just Russian media trying to pretend to everyone in Russia, look how good of a job we're doing of preventing these other nations from bringing us into a war and really we want peace. You guys can read it and make your own evaluation. All right, now let's get into the Epstein stuff. And last week was an interesting week because, firstly, if you haven't been following it, Drop Site has been running great articles of apparently the Iranians, I believe, hacked Ehud Barak's email. And they've been doing reports about interesting emails, which clearly showcase that beyond what we all believe of blackmail and intelligence, it sounds like Epstein was really a pretty good geopolitical wheeler and dealer. And it does sound like he was dealing pretty directly with Ehud Barak. You guys can go read those series. They're putting out like an article a week. There's been about 4 of them. And it's confirming things that, I guess we all just accept as fact, but I guess hasn't been completely proven to a T yet. But they've got little remarks like, don't go back to number 1 yet, which is apparently lingo for the head of Mossad. And I forgot what else I write at this point. Skankfest. You get half facts at Skankfest. That's the way it works sometimes when you're on the road. Anyways, you guys can go read that. The interesting coverage over there. But now you had this past week, apparently, Trump is not going to get away from the Epstein storyline. It's not happening. Thomas Massey's making the push. They're reopening up Congress. They are digging in. And apparently there were 20,000 emails, I guess, that Congress released. And some of them look really bad for Trump. Now, Trump clearly does not want to delve into the Epstein storyline. Now, do I think that Donald Trump's a pedophile? I couldn't tell you. And you know what? When there's no evidence to suggest something, I think it's unfair to say, yes, they are. I think when there's accusations, you need to have actual proof of it. So my theory on why Donald Trump does not want to visit the Epstein stuff is, one, he casually knew him well enough or had enough involvement that if they dig in, it just doesn't look good for him. Or more likely, he needs to leave office in 4 years. He's doing crypto wheelings and dealings, and I think the CIA basically sat him down and said, listen, we cannot expose this information because it makes us look too bad, it makes our partners look too bad, and this is too important to our intelligence operation, both in the blackmail that we've acquired and the way that people will want to shut down the CIA if they find out what happened. We need to preserve these power structures, and if you try and go the other way on this, you will not leave office with your riches, and you will always have to look over your back for more Ukrainian shooters or random college kids that have appeared to be MK Ultra or didn't actually do the crimes, other shooters. You guys get the point. I think it's just in Donald Trump's best interest for him personally to not sacrifice himself for the cleansing of this country. He's not that guy. He's not the guy that's going to go, all right, people can't be doing things this horrible, and we can't have the intelligence agencies just endlessly working for wars and against the interest of the American voting public. I'm exposing how corrupt this system is, and I don't care what happens. He's just not that guy. So he might not have actually been involved. And he did have that fun little leak when Johnson said that Trump was actually an FBI informant. And when I say leak, I meant a Freudian slip that he then retracted. But he got new emails that came out, and the emails are somewhat damning. It includes a statement by Epstein of that basically confirming that Trump clearly knows what was going on with the younger women. And then you've got this one, which was the most damning of the list. And he goes, I want you to realize the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, which apparently is redacted, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. And so this email would seem to suggest that at some point in time, I guess Donald Trump coached a young lady into how she could amass riches, because Donald Trump's good at that, and spending all of our money. Maybe he was teaching her on that, he was talking to her about his dream of becoming president and spending more money than anybody. Now, we don't know if this victim's 17, 18, 19, 24. We don't have a lot of information here. But we do have a couple emails that came out that reinsert Donald Trump into this narrative and make it appear like he wants it just to go away because he has some level of involvement there. Now, there's another side to this news story, though, which is all of these emails are between him and I think the guy's name was Michael Wolff. And Michael Wolff somehow had very good access to Donald Trump in the last administration to then write a very negative book about Donald Trump. And then you got to wonder, well, who the hell is this guy? And how did this guy have the access to Donald Trump? And then you find out, I think it was Epstein ties that might have got him ingrained in the administration to go do that coverage. And this guy's writing emails to Epstein about like Epstein's interest in terms of controlling storylines or leveraging his relationship with Trump to court better coverage in the news. And of course he's going, oh, I was just playing that guy. You know, he's playing the card of like, I'm just a journalist. And it's like in those shows when people were showing up with muffin and tea to have sex with little kids and then going, well, I was just bringing the muffin and the tea to convince the kids that they shouldn't be meeting with creeps on the internet. He's like, oh, I was just sending this guy these storylines and colluding with him to try and get the storyline from him. I wasn't actually working with that guy. So then there was another email that came out in which Jeffrey Epstein, I will read this article as well. Jeffrey Epstein wrote in a 2011 email released by the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee on Wednesday that former President Clinton never visited his private island. These stories are completely and utter fantasy. I don't know and have never met Al Gore. Clinton was never on the island. The telephone book is not mine. It was stolen by my houseman that is currently in prison for doing so. Epstein wrote to someone dubbed the Duke, whose email address is redacted. Guys, it is looking to me like Epstein was probably slick enough to murk his email records and write random emails to throw things off the trail. That in terms of cracking this storyline, I mean, maybe it's possible. Oh, Clinton's actually such a nice guy. He stopped Prince Andrew from doing these other things, and the Clintons are the most wonderful individuals. But that Donald Trump guy, he was aware of everything and actually worked with me until he became an FBI informant. Listen, there's so many ways to crack this story open. There's the J.P. Morgan lawsuit from a couple years ago, which Donald Trump has threatened to take a look at. There's all of the pilots and other people that were around. There were the non-Ghislaine Maxwells that were specifically mentioned when Epstein got the pardon agreement. I think there's a lot of angles on this storyline that if we were interested in actually discovering what took place here, they could figure it out. They rounded up everybody involved in January 6th. They took the resources of the FBI to go through all of Facebook. They didn't care about what happened during the riots. They didn't care about American businesses that were burnt down during Black Lives Matter. They had no interest in keeping our cities safe and not having that kind of chaos. But when they're interested in something and they want to put the resources into it, they can figure it out. It is clear that they don't want to figure this one out. And it's also, I'm not defending or accusing Donald Trump here, but when you've got the guy who was ingratiated in the administration writing negative books, who's also the person in the same emails that's documenting the supposed, oh, look, clearly there was more involvement here. I'm just saying it's kind of like just breadcrumbs that are neither here nor there. And particularly when you have another email just going, oh, Clinton's totally off the hook here. All right, two more Epstein-related things, and then I will read all of your comments. Brought to you by YOKRATOM.com, home of the $6 kilo. Only place in the entire world you can get an entire kilo of kratom for just $6. Sponsor of Skankfest. If you're out there, you can see them roaming around. Say what's up. Tell them you love the Run Your Mouth podcast, and keep supporting our efforts over here. Now, you also got a storyline, can't validate this one way or the other, that Ghislaine Maxwell is being treated very well in prison now. I had imagined that they just sent someone to prison in her place, or that there was a tunnel outside of her cell and then she just walks out and she's in Club Med. I would have just assumed that these people go to prison like it's Goodfellas, where they own the prison, they're making meatballs in the back room, people are cutting the onions too thin. But apparently Ghislaine in the last prison was not having that nice of a time. And now she's in a new prison where even the warden is upset that he has to cater to her every need. And part of this storyline sounds to me like trying to court favor potentially with Ghislaine, because apparently, Ghislaine said so. Remember, that was evidence for the Republicans a couple, 3 weeks ago, 2 months ago. Even Jim Jordan, who I like, hey, even Ghislaine Maxwell said that Trump had no involvement here. And so you can take the opinion of the lady who's in trouble for this thing and, pleaded not guilty and is now in jail. But it does seem like perhaps they're trying to court favor with Ghislaine, who would be, they cannot pardon at the moment because the American people get too outraged. And now you've got Donald Trump back and barking back and saying, I've told Pam Bondi, here, I'll actually read it. I'm going to have to squint right at the camera because producer man doesn't know what he's doing. He gets all out of sorts when we're on the road here. All right, here we go. Here's the piece from the New York Post. Now the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from the disastrous shutdown and all the other failures. I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots of the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, former U.S. Secretary Larry Summers, venture capitalist. Oh, I might be reading these backwards of the explanation of who's who. Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan Chase, and many other institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. Now, my read on this is it's he's biting back, where he was like, guys, we can all go down for this. I was willing to move on. And you guys took that as, all right, well, if Donald Trump wants to move on from this, we're going to go after him. And he's like, I will burn it all down. If you guys think that you're going to pin the Epstein thing on me, I was trying to brush this under the rug for you guys. You want to delve into the JP Morgan deal for all of the money that they were running to him and ignoring all of the laundering flags, all of the internal mechanisms that were flagging goofy and illegal behavior, that they'd look the other way because he was apparently too valuable of an asset and was making introductions too great for J.P. Morgan Chase. J.P. Morgan Chase needed Epstein. There wasn't enough profits or business for J.P. Morgan Chase that J.P. Morgan Chase, owners probably of the Federal Reserve, and Jamie Dimon needed to rely on Epstein for favorable introductions, to the point that the profit margins coming in from Jeffrey Epstein warranted, hey, we need to look the other way. You guys, who's done the best coverage on that, if you want to go read it, is there's numerous articles on the blog Wall Street on Parade, where they delve into the JP Morgan lawsuit, where they had to pay out victims of Jeffrey Epstein, but I also believe did not have to admit fault. And I think that there was even amnesty for co-conspirators, but I might be confusing that with the initial Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit. But my read on that is Trump's just biting back, and he's like, you guys are not pinning this on me. And if you want to play this game of who's in trouble over Epstein, I've got better ability to investigate than you guys, and we will get after it. All right, let's read some comments. Algorithm, I'll cleanse your butthole with my bent erection. Is that like a Q-tip? You got to go in at an angle to clear things out. Why are you so convinced that you're going to be able to thumb your bent erection into my butthole, or that you have the capability of cleaning out what's in there? I keep a pretty clean butthole. You know, even with the current shower head I'm working with, believe me, I'm meticulous, and I will not be taking the bent dick challenge, which is that you're so sure that your butthole's clean that you'll allow someone to put their bent dick into your butt to confirm that there's no brown in there. So I will not be partaking in that challenge. But there might be some other person in the chat who wants to take you up on that. Runaway Slav, Trump had Thanksgiving dinner with Epstein in 2018. The excuses are over. There you go. Even the hardliners like Runaway Slav, who want to reunite the white nation and get rid of all the immigrants, not including himself, but people of other ethnicities, will say that, people are done with Trump. Runaway Slav, I already read that. Octavia, shout out from LA, AR, you to man, Robbie, XO. All right, okay, thank you, sir. Buddy, your new best friend, is reposting my stream. Thank you for reposting the stream. Jack Burden, so it went from phase 1 to a Democratic hoax and now back to a real story. Trump needs to make up his mind about the Epstein saga. That is a very good point. Thank you for that in the chat. I did not quite verbalize that, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's pretty clear. He wanted to move on from this. He didn't want to delve in. Everyone is a little obsessed with the storyline, and there's enough media on the internet that's going to keep poking it and going, we're not just letting this one slide. And when Donald Trump became the face of letting it slide, the Democrats were like, oh, let's hop on this one. We can pick up this playbook and run with it. And I think Trump's going, all right, you guys want to find out about this? I will investigate all of you so that you don't investigate me. All right, here's some other crazy storylines, and then we're going to call it an episode, and I'm going to go festival. Maduro open to manage exit if Trump provides amnesty. Putin on standby with military aid. And this was a Zero Hedge article claiming that Maduro wants to take his fortune and leave. And if the United States government will allow him to do so, he's willing to go. And I'm sure that this is an article that we're gonna hear Scott Horton talking about this 10 years from now. After they actually go in there and they invade, we'll hear the real storyline of how Maduro wanted no part of a war and was willing just to leave and go, you can have my country, you can have the oil, just let me keep some money and get the hell out of here. And if this is true, can we just take the deal? I mean, how much does the military, can the oil interest just beat out the military-industrial complex or pay them a VIG on you don't have to actually fight the war? Or how about protection contracts? How about big oil can just have it all for free without us having to have the war? Trump can get out there and go, I'm so great, he wanted nothing to do with me, he just left, they're going to have a better life there. Just take the win. I don't know if this one's true. Once again, like I said, crazy stories in the works. I'm just letting you know what I'm reading. But if this one's true, can somebody just tell Trump, you need a victory right now? Just claim victory over all the assets in Venezuela. You get to go, we're dominating our sphere once again. We're no longer being relied on the foreign oil or whatever. I don't know. Just go, we're keeping Russia and China off our continent. And look, we didn't even need to go to war to do so. Quickest win ever. And hopefully the military-industrial complex or the liars in the CIA aren't going, oh, he doesn't really want this deal. He's never going to leave. He's going to take all the oil with him and burn the wells. We'll see how this one plays out. There were also articles that the government's doing more jungle training. I forgot where it was. Maybe in Panama they're doing jungle training, sending more boats over there. They're certainly looking like they're leaning towards they're looking for a war with Venezuela. But, hey, listen, if you manage to pressure this guy into just leaving his country and you can put up your new puppet government that we'll probably have to go fight with in 20 years after there's more chaos in the region, let's focus on not winning the Ukraine war and not having a ceasefire in Gaza and just take the victory on this one and go, yes. It's a good deal. You going to get a better deal than that, than the guy just leaving? Isn't he all for good deals? All right, now, I might have this one very, very wrong. So this is my initial thoughts. I've been doing a joke in my act for a while, which I'm actually happy that more people are going to find out about this new leader out in Syria. He used to be Al-Qaeda. I think he used to also be ISIS. And how absolutely strange it was that he's then on the news making statements like diversity is our strength. I don't like the foreign meddling that we do, the intelligence agencies, the fact that we're out in Syria going, we're arming the moderate rebels, and it turns out to be Al-Qaeda after for 10 years he heard that these are the worst terrorists ever, and so we got to spend all of our money and find them in every single cave in Afghanistan. Listen, I'm not endorsing any of this nonsense, okay? I want to make it clear. This is all nonsense. Let's go back to America great. Let's get our factories going again. Let's quit spending money everywhere else. Let's have a good, honest economy. I'm a dumb hippie. You guys know this. So I'm not endorsing any of what's happening here. But same as like, letting Maduro keep his riches, even if you're an evil guy, just seems like the most pragmatic win. And so who really needs to have the guy killed? If he wants to leave and you can accomplish all of your agenda of stealing Venezuelan resources and keeping China and Russia off our hemisphere, just take the win. I don't need the guy to be hung and tried for whatever it is that you think the guy did. Just take the win. It seems like the easiest win. Now this one I might have real wrong. I'm saying it up front, okay? It's just my first thought on this. I don't know what happened in Syria. I don't know enough of the history of Syria. I don't know enough of the history of this guy. But all leaders are bad dudes. In the current place that we find ourselves in, when people start getting all on their high horses of like, and I agree, like, if you're going to sell me these stories of terrorists and how bad terrorism is, and then you've got a guy who was one of those people who was on the wanted list, it's goofy as hell that the guy's now leading the country and is going to be your partner in the region. But at this point, if the guy's who's there, we're never going to find out the story of the CIA or whoever got the guy into power and why he ended up with this guy. And obviously, you can't have him killing Christians or killing innocent civilians in the area. And if he's acting in an evil way, then we should just have nothing to do with him. So maybe I'm wrong on this because they were doing some wonky stuff when he first got in there. In which case, if that's true, I'm a big fan of just, I don't really think we need to endorse you guys or operate with you guys. But I guess the other side of this storyline is if it's currently in our strategic interest, like the guy's there and shaming him and not trading with the country is just worse for the Syrian people and doesn't actually advance anyone's interest. I don't know that you're worse off by going, this guy's so terrible, it can't be him, and then not getting along with Syria. Like I said, this might have to be a Scott Horton or Kyle Anzalone topic to delve into of the pragmatism of once this guy's there, should we shame him, not have him in the White House, and not have more peaceful relationships with Syria? Or if at this point, whatever horrible things this guy's done has been done, and for whatever reason the CIA picked him to lead the country, and so might as well move forward. But guys, you know what else I might have had wrong? As long as I'm admitting things that I have completely wrong, is I did really second guess that Cheney joke I made at the beginning, and wondering if I was doing the same thing that I hated that other people did when they were making jokes about Charlie Kirk passing. And in my defense, firstly, my intro is very clearly jokes. Also, Cheney did do terrible things and was in wars, and I think, made choices that might ultimately bankrupt our country, or at least didn't help us not go down paths of just spending all the money all of the time. And it wasn't actually his relatives that I was joking about. Anyways, but I did have, maybe I shouldn't be putting that one out. Probably would have edited it out if I wasn't just on the road. But anyways, things I've gotten wrong. I might be very wrong about this Al-Jawani character. Curious to hear your thoughts. I see people in the chat. I will take all of your thoughts, and I will be tracking down Kyle at some point because I also want to talk to him about what's going on in Venezuela. All right, let's take some comments here. Did not name no care. No name no care. Sorry. Didn't want to cover a Solana meme, token mocking birds, bureaucrat, and the broking system. I don't even know what that means. Okay. Runaway Slav, did you see the Syrian Al-Jawani guy playing basketball at the White House? He has no form and throws the ball like a girl. Not surprising for a goat humper. Nice. Jack Burton, Cheney has over 1 million deaths on his hand. Charlie, not so much. I agree with you. I don't think... if you guys will go watch the part of the problem that we did... I took the other side on, if people do shameful things, they care about their legacies. I think it's important and cleansing to shame individuals who did horrible things. And it's unproductive for society to go, let's keep it dignified and let's not comment on the horrible things that this dead guy did. Because if he did horrible things, then the guy did horrible things. And, okay. Let's cover one more topic, and then I want to go shower and get to this festival. And it's going to take me a while because I got a shower head that's just coming down from the top. And it takes a while to keep the butthole clean so that I don't have curved dick being like, hey, I'm at the festival and I would like to clean your asshole for you. All right, 100 million corruption scandal rocks Ukraine. Zelensky associate flees country before police raids. Now, we all know that Ukraine's incredibly corrupt. Maybe 30 years from now, we will find out how much of the Ukrainian money that was sent over there during the war found its way back into private individuals' hands, and maybe how much of it even made it back to American politicians or other wheeler and dealers. But usually when you hear corruption scandals, the numbers are like small, where you're like, this guy was bribed for, Homan was bribed for $50,000. Doesn't sound like enough money to me. I mean, not that $50,000 wouldn't change my life, but I'm just saying, like, in the world of how much profits can be made for corporations if you're diverting contracts to them, and the level of value that a corrupt politician could bring to you, sometimes the figures that you see these people bring bribed for, you're like, are you guys really this cheap? You're this cheap? $100 million, though. That's a payday that makes sense. Overpricing, underpricing contracts, shoving this over here, shoving some cash over there, pallet of cash over here. Now, hopefully, as I've said, you got to punish these evil individuals, and at some point, you got to actually expose these storylines so people realize that the elites are not working in our interest and they're lying through our teeth. But, you know, hopefully we get all the details on this storyline of how corrupt that guy was, and then hopefully all the American people are like, this money is just going to private individuals, and a lot of people are dying in the mix. And it would be nice if it made it all the way to Zelensky, but we'll see how that plays out. All right, let's call it there. That's enough episode for one day. 41 minutes on the road. Got out most of the, big stuff I thought was interesting from this past week. And then hopefully going to track down Sam Tripoli at some point over the festival. We'll do another episode from the hotel room. The last one I did with him is the most watched episode of Run Your Mouth to date. So we'll do that. And then other than that, guys, if you haven't already followed the channel, Robbie the Fire, go follow that channel. I will be taking down the Run Your Mouth channel come 2025, and I will be releasing a fair amount of stand-up. So go check out that channel. All right, JB, you should get comic Dave Smith to run for Mikey Sherry seat. Special election coming up soon. All right. I'll relay that. All right, that's the episode. Later, everybody. Have a great day. If you're at Skankfest, please come say hello. I will be mixing it up in the crowds. And looking forward to hanging out at the thing.